Welcome to House of Horrors. Some sins never fade, some souls never rest, and some curses last forever. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones. This is Whispers of the Shadow Man. Now, let's begin. New Hampshire, USA, 2080. It was 3 in the morning. Everyone should be asleep at that time, right? But I, Ethan Carter, never went to bed early. I was a 17-year-old high school student, and I loved horror stories. Watching real ghost videos on YouTube had become my nightly ritual. But that night, something happened that would change my life forever. Right behind our house was a massive forest called Blackwood Forest. Ever since I was a kid, my dad had always warned me never to go in there. There's something in those woods, Ethan. Do you know that people have gone missing? He used to say. Of course, I never took it seriously. Until that night, when I saw something strange. Here's how it all began. I was watching horror videos on YouTube. Everything was normal. Creepy sound effects, screams, shadowy figures in the dark. The usual stuff. But then, I felt something move behind my curtain. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But then, I realized there was actually something standing there. I immediately grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. There was no one there. I rubbed my eyes. Maybe I had just watched too many scary videos, but when I turned back to my screen, I noticed something strange. My camera was on. I hadn't turned it on. The screen was pitch black. The horror video I was watching had stopped. Instead, I heard whispers. My blood ran cold. I pulled out my earbuds, but the whispers were still there. They were coming from inside my room. "Who's there?" I whispered. Bam. My closet door slammed shut. My heart nearly stopped. I jumped up and turned on the lights. I yanked open the closet door. No one was there. But then I noticed something. There was a word written on my wall. "I see you," and right below it a clock was drawn. Time, 3:33 a.m. Just then, my phone screen lit up again. A new message from an unknown number. Do not look out the window, but instinctively I did. And I saw it, standing in the middle of the street. A tall, thin, humanoid figure, completely black, with no eyes. It moved ever so slightly. And then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone. I couldn't sleep that night. I shut down my computer, tightly closed my curtains, checked under my bed. Then I put on my headphones and tried to drown out my thoughts with music. But then, I heard footsteps outside my door. My parents were asleep. I waited. The sound stopped. Maybe I imagined it, I told myself. But just as I was about to close my eyes, my door slowly started to open, and something entered my room. As my door slowly creaked open, I held my breath. I squinted my eyes, pretending to be asleep. But my heart was pounding so fast, it felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. My door opened completely. I couldn't see what had entered, but I could feel it. I heard the sound of footsteps stepping into my room. Tap, 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 then breathing. Someone was inside. I clenched my hands tightly under the blanket. I didn't dare open my eyes, but I knew something was standing there. It was right beside my bed. I could hear its breathing. Cold, uneven, and unsettling. It was watching me. I lay there, frozen for what felt like minutes. Then something happened. It slowly leaned down. and whispered in my ear, "You saw." I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Then, the shadow suddenly vanished. I saw that my door was still slightly open, but the room was now empty. I was still trembling. But that night I learned something. That thing could see me, and IT was testing me. I didn't sleep at all until morning. I kept waiting for the door to open again, but the worst part came at dawn. Because when I turned on my phone, I saw that there was a new photo in my gallery. I opened it, and I froze. It was a picture of my room, but in that photo, I wasn't there. It was like someone had taken a picture of my room in the middle of the night. But I wasn't in my bed. Then a horrifying thought hit me. Was this thing erasing me? When morning came, I got ready to leave the house. But strangely, my mom didn't notice me. "Mom, I'm leaving," I said. She didn't respond. I raised my voice slightly. "Mom?" She turned to me, but there was something empty in her eyes. "Ethan, weren't you in your room?" she said. I didn't know what that meant. I just shook my head and left. But when I got to school, things got even worse. When I walked into school, no one said hi to me. I entered my classroom, sat down, but everyone in class had their backs turned to me. And then I noticed something. Someone else was sitting in my seat, someone who looked exactly like me. It was me. But I could see him, and he couldn't see me. I wanted to scream, but right at that moment, the teacher turned to the board and scratched 3 letters into it with his fingernail. SIL. My whole body went cold. The teacher slowly turned to face me, and at that moment I realized he had no face. During lunch, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Make your choice. One of you will stay, either you or him." And then a second message arrived. "Look for the last time at 3 a.m. That night, I locked myself in my room again, and at exactly 3 a.m. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. But there wasn't just one reflection. There were 2 of me. One was shaking with fear. The other was smiling at me. And slowly, he started stepping out of the mirror. I stood frozen in front of the mirror. There were 2 of me. One was me. The other was smiling at me. But that smile wasn't human. His face looked exactly like mine, but his eyes were pitch black and empty, and slowly, he started stepping out of the mirror. I took a step back, but he was moving toward me. I tried to open my mouth and scream, but no sound came out. The other Ethan tilted his head slightly, and then he spoke. In my own voice, "You've seen too much, Ethan." I couldn't say a word. "This world can't hold 2 Ethans," he said. Then he smiled, and at that moment, the lights started flickering. Suddenly, my phone screen lit up. A message from an unknown number. "Make your choice." My head spun. What choice? At that moment, the other Ethan spoke again. "Either I leave," he leaned forward slightly, "or you do." And then he spread into a dark shadow, consuming the entire room, like it was trying to pull me in. Suddenly, my door banged loudly. Bam, bam, bam. But the person knocking wasn't my mom. Wasn't my dad. A black shadow slid in from under the door, and then the whispers began. "He has chosen you. He will take your place. The will of the shadow man will be fulfilled." I didn't know what to do. And then the mirror shattered. Glass shards scattered across the floor. But the Ethan from the mirror didn't disappear. Instead, he started merging with me ... I could feel him being pulled inside my body. I screamed and stumbled backward, but the shadows grabbed me. A hand reached out from inside the mirror and tried to pull me in. No, I screamed, but it was too late. As I was being dragged into the mirror, the other Ethan stood in the middle of the room, staring at me ... The last thing he said was, "There is no you anymore. There is only me." And then I fell into darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was still in my room, but something was different. I stood up and looked at the mirror, and there I was gone. The only Ethan left was the one sitting on my bed. I was nothing but a shadow now. I was trapped inside the mirror, and he had taken my place. The door opened. "Wake up, Ethan. You're going to be late for school." It was my mom's voice, but she didn't see me, because I was no longer connected to the real world. The Ethan on the other side of the mirror sat up in bed, and in my voice he answered, "Okay, Mom, I'm getting ready." I screamed from inside ... but no one could hear me, and he had stolen my life. The next day, Ethan went to school. Everyone thought he was me, but I was still trapped inside the mirror, and no one knew the truth. Now I only know one thing. If you look into a mirror at 3 a.m., the Shadow Man might choose you and take your place. Some stories don't end here. Some curses last forever. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and turn on notifications for more horror tales. And next time, make sure you're not alone in the dark. Good night from House of Horrors.